Oompa Loompa Dupetee Dee.
What do you get when you piss off the Japanese?
Mess with their history, twist it for fun.
Watch as your prophets are now on the run. Temples defaced, the backlash is loud. Even the Prime Minister's part of the crowd.
Stockholders panic, they scream and they wail.
Ubisoft sinking, abandon the sail.
Oompa Loompa Dupetee Dong.
Say your goodbyes cause your company's gone.
If you are wise, you won't play this game.
Or Japan will ban your name.
By swarming, the damage is great.
Ubisoft begging, but now it's too late.
Paris is frantic, Montreal too.
Lawsuits are flying, investors will sue.
Panic is spreading, no one is spared.
Tokyo's empty, the office is bare.
Oompa Loompa Dupetee Dong.
What made you think this would not go all wrong?
If you are wise, you won't take the piss.
Or your stocks go down
like this.
Ubisoft dreams turn into despair.
Job listings vanish into thin air.
Nothing to sell and nothing to buy.
Too bad you offended the samurai. Oompa Loompa Dupetee Dee.
Next time be careful with history.
You might have been saved with a little more thought.
Now look at the mess you've wrought.
Previously, we had discussed that Tencent had purposely pushed Ubisoft into self-destruction in order to buy out their IPs. Now, again, we had people in the comments section who were confused by that and didn't quite understand how based Tencent could possibly get behind all this Rainbow Warrior stuff. However, here it is right here on Tencent's own website. This is Tencent.com. You can search it, Tencent.com. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. That'll bring you right to this place. And here it is, our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion right there. They absolutely support this stuff outside of China, not inside of China. Why is that? Why would they be supporting that stuff outside of China and not within? It makes you wonder, right? It makes you wonder. But now you know how we came to the conclusion that Tencent was pushing for this stuff inside of Ubisoft to create the monster that resulted in these sales, right? This comes from Famitsu. This is a Japanese fan site. I would say equivalent to Machinima at its height, IGN at its height. Of course, not currently. They're kind of like antiquated and people don't trust them anymore. But when these guys were really doing their job well, this is what Famitsu is most like over in Japan. Famitsu had an interview with Dumonte and Benoit, and they were the directors of Assassin's Creed and Assassin's Creed Shadows. They were the brand directors and the creative director of Assassin's Creed Shadows. And they were the ones that told Famitsu that they needed non-Japanese eyes to tell the story of Sengoku Japan. Okay? So that's what rendered all this right here. Now, these numbers, you should know, these numbers cut off at the 23rd, okay? These numbers cut off at the 23rd. So this is only 3 days in to being for sale in Japan, okay? And these are just Japan's numbers. These aren't globally, okay? So now you're looking at 17,701 bottles. Now, that's because Google translates goofy and apparently doesn't know what copy means. So it just went with bottles because why not? So there's 17,701 bottles of Assassin's Creed on the wall, apparently. Hold it. It looks like 73% of you watching this aren't subscribed. Time to click that button. You know where to find it. But anyway, I digress into what we're getting at here. Well, you can kind of assume from here probably around 40 to 36,000 copies were sold going at that current trajectory. Now, for comparison, down here, we'll check out just down here. Where did it go? It's down here quite a ways because it fell. There it is. Yakuza, almost at the bottom of the list. Yakuza, since it's been out, has sold 83,533 copies. So that's since February 21st. So just a little bit over a month from when the sample point cuts off here. a little bit under rather, under a month from where the sample point cuts off. So 1 full month, all right, for perspective, 1 full month of Yakuza 8 Gaiden Pirates in Hawaii, all right? That's 83,553 bottles sold, if you will. And again, so we'll go back up and take a look at Assassin's Creed's numbers all the way up here. And we have it right here at number 5. And they've sold 17,701 in just the first 3 days here. So again, like, it's not something to be like, oh no, the Japanese are completely shutting it out. It's just one of those things where the sales are sluggish here. And again, it's demonstrated because the Japanese people have traditionally been soft on the Assassin's Creed franchise. They expected to see a boost here. I don't think it's going to happen. Personally, I don't think it's going to hit the Yakuza numbers. Yakuza has a much closer cultural heritage with Japanese consumers. It really deals with more of their comedy. It deals with more of their the history of the Yakuza, both, you know, sort of parodied as well as some history that the West has absolutely no footing in whatsoever. There's also references to Japanese culture that just simply don't come across the Pacific there. And so it's selling 83,000 copies on a, you know, kind of a offbeat adventure that you don't usually see the Yakuza boys getting up to. A bit of an offbeat adventure. 83,000 copies in a month is probably a pretty good benchmark for who's going to go out for something that's, you know, not typically the big winner that something like Monster Hunter Wilds or Super Mario Party Jamboree is, okay? Let's just remind you that Super Mario Party Jamboree is only running about half the sales of Assassin's Creed Shadows, and that came out in October of 2024, okay? That's what you're looking at on this chart right here. This is very worrying numbers if you've produced a brand new video game and Mario Party Jamboree is hot on your ass. That's very, very bad news, okay? Do I think they're going to change this? No. These are the initial sales numbers, which tells me there were not people lined up around the clock. They were not ready to jump on this. There was no Halo opening for this. There were not people beating down the doors to get here. You want to know why? Because this is 3 days in. If this was day one and they moved 17,000 copies in one single day, yeah, absolutely. That's big news in Japan. Again, there are only so many of tens of millions of Japanese. They're not hundreds of millions the way we are here in the US and India's billions of people and China's billions of people. That we're pretty much, you know, a pretty large market. So when we get 17,000 in one day, that's not really that stellar as far as the saturation that we have access to in the market versus just selling something in Japan, getting 17,000 sales in one day is a big news. But this is 3 days, okay? This is 3 days, which tells me, no, there were people that had a passing fascination that wanted to check this out, and that's what this looks like, is that people on the holiday maybe stopped by, but by and large, these purchases were made by people who had a fascination to begin with. This was not flying off the shelves because people saw Yasuke and Naue being advertised and had to get their copy. And that's just, you know, the kind of takeaway from those numbers, just so we have it all in perspective, okay? Just so we understand what 17,701 bottles managed to accomplish here. Well, Ubisoft spent $2.1 million on influencers to secure the launch of Assassin's Creed Shadows. Okay? Now, I'll just put that up in a bit more dramatic graphic. It's a little easier to read. But this is according to Nick Lombardi. We were just looking at his article over on LinkedIn. He was celebrating Ubisoft for this one. But they spent $2.1 million on brand collaborations. That's that boba tea nonsense, that anti-social social club shirts and stuff that they made. Then they had a Red Bull parkour stunt where they flew a kid all the way out to Japan to jump off of like a construction lift, you know, the lift that they use to, it's just a truck and it's just a like a trailer thing and you just go up, you know? It's just a lift. That's all it is. It's nothing special. They didn't build a special tower. Just the kid jumped off a lift. We'll go back. You can take a look at it. There he is. He's right there. And we'll risk the strike. Whatever. We'll see what happens. If this video disappears, you know that Ubisoft got us. So there he is.
1,
And
go.
2. Do you think he makes it? Do you think he lives? You sure about that? Are you sure? It's only hay. That's a parking lot. That's a man. Man meets parking lot. Hmm? Just kidding. He's perfectly fine. He's perfectly fine. But that stunt only won them 72,000 views. And I'm pretty sure the average Smash JT video knocks that out of the park. Now, that's had 2 weeks to metastasize here. And apparently people just weren't jumping all over the opportunity to get them some Assassin's Creed Shadows because of a kid jumping into some hay. Yeah, how about that? Very convincing stuff. Very convincing stuff. But finally, we do have to cap off this video. Once again, we're going to check in with the Japanese senators and Japanese representative here, respectively. We have, I'm sorry, their names just completely. We have Kata and Natase, I believe his name is Natase. And these two guys have been bringing the issue of the abuse of the shrines into the national dialogue and then the national diet of Japan, which is their Congress, if you will. So where we have senators and representatives, they have council members and just different names, but these two guys are effectively a state representative and then someone who is in the federal Congress, okay? And so this would be your local senator that represents you within the state, discussing the issues that are going on inside your state, and now he is discussing this shrine issue with a senator that goes to your federal government, okay? So these two guys are speaking on behalf of the shrines from the districts and prefecture, which is effectively a state, that they represent. So here we go.
プレイヤーの方がね、ゲームを進めていくと、いろんな自社の企画がどうやら舞台になってるみたいですね。
And so Natase here, he says, as you know, Assassin's Creed Shadows has many temples and many shrines within it, within the game. And so Kata explains the Hajime Castle, Himeji Castle, and Takasago, I think I said that right, Takasago Shrine, which is celebrating its 400th anniversary since its reconstruction this year. They're also used in the game. So again, like I just wonder, like, who was telling these Assassin's Creed devs what Japan was? Like, there's so much happening around the visuals alone that they're using in the game that nobody thought they'd be like, hey, you know, maybe we don't have murder scenes in front of this place that's celebrating the 400th anniversary of its reconstruction. You know, not even the initial construction, the reconstruction, if you will. It's a little much, right? It's a little much. Again, over here in the West, we don't have this kind of respect for our culture. We don't really care. If a castle gets rebuilt, somebody wants to film a movie in front of it that splatters pig's blood up the side of it, whatever, we'll wash it off with a power washer after it's over. There's nothing sacred. You understand? Nothing is off limits in the West, and we need to fix that. And this is right here is how we learn how to do it. The Japanese are showing us the processes by which a modern government, a modern citizenry, deals with an abusive corporate entity that wants to just capitalize on anything that they possibly could consider Japanese without any, you know, adherence to what the culture around that stuff is. Again, we want to pretend that it doesn't matter. That's fine and dandy. If it doesn't matter to you in the West, that's great. It matters to people in Japan. And I believe that they should not be forced to suffer the same indignity that you and I are when it comes to our culture. As I've said over and over again, nobody has a problem with George Washington being stuffed into a Challenger and he's tearing ass across a field somewhere in Maryland. Nobody's got a problem with that because people don't know who that guy is and they don't care. If you really understood who George Washington is, that's a pretty offensive thing to do, to just stuff the father of our nation, the father of our governmental ethics, a man that dodged many, many bullets, a man that was painted as sitting among the angels with the angels dancing among them, a man that turned down the crown of America when we wanted to make him a king, a man that retired from all of that to become a farmer and then die a very gruesome death, choking on his own throat. Okay? But we'll stick him in a Dodge Challenger and run him across a field, baby. 30 seconds of American badass. You see the problem? Now, I get it. Out there, we're thinking, yeah, that sounds so cool. But you got to remember who this person was in real life. Create a fictional George Washington. Call him George Washington Jr. Make a deliberate difference between the George Washington you're showing. Like, give George Washington you're showing a leather jacket. So he looks like he just got out of the phone booth with Bill and Ted. That way we understand that this is not something, this is meant to be a parody thing. Now, I get it. It's jokes, right? It's jokes to stick Washington in the Challenger. We get that. Ha ha, funny dodge. But again, this is a character, this is a not a character, this is a real live person that walked the earth, that sacrificed most of his life so that you and I could sit here and hee-haw at a visage of him tearing ass through a field in a meh muscle car. And this is why they're bringing this up, is that they don't believe it's right to have their culture just, stripped for money.
それから今年再建400年を迎える、高砂神社とか、それからインカにも触れましたけど、東大寺のところもで触れてるんですけども、本当にその部分についても。
So the captions are now showing Nataze's next statement. Kata is still talking. This is not what Kata is saying, but Nataze is about to speak here, and I'll just let him start, and then I'll say what he's said here. So Nataze, this is the man on the left side of your screen here. He is attempting to say, he's sending here, he says, you guys sent letters to Ubisoft on behalf of the shrines and temples to protest the use of these things, and you received no reply from Ubisoft whatsoever, not even a thanks for your help, nothing. And this is what Kata, and so Kata replies with this, and he says, no, we have not. And so Nataze goes on and he says, Itate Hyozu Shrine, I believe this is the one that Scatha went into. Again, Scatha did not know the streamer. You see the footage of the O.R.C.A wearing the red and purple and gold armor where he's hacking up the shrine. That's Scatha did not know that that was a religious space. No one told him that that space was not to be played around with, nobody told him that the people outside were priests or anything. Being a Westerner, there's just no overlap. We're not told that that's what that is. We're not told that this is a sacred mirror. We're not told that this space is even important. It's just another wooden structure to go around in the test area that Ubisoft was letting him exist in. None of the handlers explained that he would be having anything to do with something culturally sacred at all. He was just told to play around in here. He was given a certain set of rules, a certain set of things he could talk about, and that's how you do these things for these sponsored streams. Okay, so I just want to make it clear that when they talk about this footage of the guy going around and obliterating the shrine, Scatha did not know, okay? And so this shrine right here, the Itate Hyozu Shrine, they sent a letter, as well as the Association of Shinto Shrines of Hyogo Prefecture. So this is, I think this is something like 4 different shrines have sent letters, at least collectively, if not independently, to Ubisoft to say, hey, please don't do this. These spaces can be made completely untouchable, and that should be the accepted thing, that you can go in here and you can observe that space, but you can't obliterate it. And of course, parkouring across the top of the torii gates, that sort of thing. There's been a lot of hiccups with this. It would look cool if the character could do that mentality. So.
神社の方もご寄付出しますね。
神社もですし、兵庫県神社町もですね。で、あと東大寺さんも出してるんですけども。
Okay, Todiji also sent their letter as well. So that makes 5 that I can count that have sent letters or asked to be represented in a letter to address this.
未だに返事がないとか。
UBI ソフトさんはまだ返事もしないんですよ。なんともな。で、なんか
And they acknowledge that Ubisoft is not replying. Now, so they're going to discuss this now, and there are clips of Naoe, someone playing Naoe still destroying shrines in the Japanese version. So apparently that day 1 patch that only takes care of a couple of shrines, and they didn't completely patch all of the shrines.
当初、日本で発売する前には、寺社仏閣を破壊できるようなものはできなくするみたいな話もあったんですが、どうやら違うみたいですね。
And so that's what they're discussing here, is they're explaining that the patch came through, but it did not remove the ability to destroy all the shrines, just certain ones.
神社の鏡の神経の部分は壊されないようになってるそうですけど、他の部分はまだ壊せれるように。
So he explains that while the sacred mirror is not able to be broken any longer, all other parts of that display are fully destructible. So again, while the visage of Jesus is not destroyed, um, the parts that are holding it up, that this visage, are destroyed, and so this visage then falls to the ground where it should never be. And so that's what now is happening with the mirror. See, there's no way to win in this so long as you keep this stuff destructible, okay? And that's my line in the sand here. It just shouldn't be. There's no way that these people, these assassins that lived in this time, would just, on a whim, pivot from being worshippers of this faith that was so powerful in their times to just wiping their butts with it. There's no way they would do that. That should instantly trigger a desync scenario when they go around parkouring inside of Notre Dame, when they go around destroying these shrines, when they go around obliterating the peace inside of the mosques, and eventually when they get around to doing stuff with the temples, the Jewish temples. Yeah, that needs to be hemmed. That needs to be held down. That needs to be stopped in its tracks. Again, Assassin's Creed has towed the line with what is and isn't history for quite some time now. And as I've said in previous videos, I went back and I took a look at the previous games. I took a look at how they were executed. And I do believe that it was a misstep from the beginning to make religious spaces into battlefields. I do. I believe that's a dangerous precedent to start spreading around, and that has been the constant theme inside of Assassin's Creed. I get that the Templar were a Christian entity, but if you know anything about the Templar, they were not after Friday the 13th. It's the whole reason why Friday the 13th is a problem for Western cultures and not for anybody else. Okay? That was when the great extinction, the great destruction of the Templar was ordered by the Pope at that time. Okay? And that was not during the Sengoku era. It's not. I don't believe there is a French setting at this time that explains the destruction of the Templar in the Assassin's Creed franchise. I don't think the Templar being the good guys is inside of the Assassin's Creed lore. So, but here in the real world, the Templar were good guys. Then they fell out with the church, and it became this huge explosion that ended up with this sort of black mark on history that we call Friday the 13th. And so this again is like, it's the hyper focus on demonizing religion seems to be this like vein, this ugly vein that runs through the Assassin's Creed franchise from long before now. But it has finally grown and metastasized and turned into the malignant tumor that's consuming the body of the franchise now. Because this obsession with confronting faith and through violent manner is not going to be tolerated by people who continue to work their way back toward a more traditionalist mindset, as we've gone to the most extreme ways of self-expression you could think of, at least here in the West. Now, seeing this in the East, they don't want that there. That's why they're fighting this.
設定になってるということで、このことについてもいろんなユーザーの方から、治ってないじゃないかということで怒りの声が。
So there are people within Japan, gamers in Japan, that are sending footage of their experience in the game to Mr. Kata. Okay? That, you hear all the time, oh, the only people who hate Assassin's Creed Shadows are racists that are pretending to be Japanese online. Then you got a senator here, and he's explaining that other Japanese citizens within his constituency are sending him footage of the abuses continuing.
そしてさらにこれはもう由々しき問題ですが、ご皇室に対する不敬な。
So this goes on to explain that they were very infuriated to learn that you can pillage the imperial crypt, if you will, the imperial burial space, burial mound, that's the word, the imperial burial mound of the emperors. And so this is not, again, in the West, we don't have this reverence for kings and queens anymore. They're neat little things that we write tabloid articles about, you know? Meghan Markle and what's his face are off doing something crazy this time, and somebody else who wears a crown's doing something crazy this week, and some other guy who wears a crown flipped over an SUV. Wow. You know, that's how we treat them. They're just like circus animals. They're zoo animals that we go, ooh, ah, oh, royalty. And that's it. In Japan, while not having a direct leadership role or really much more than a character influence over government, the emperor is still very much revered as a figure of Japanese identity. Okay? Now, this is not a figure that is going to go out and do King Charles things. That's not at all what the emperor does. The emperor participates in certain types of Japanese cultural holidays, but not all of them. Not because he's stuck up or something, but because the role of the emperor is still very important to the Japanese culture. And so, like, Blockbuster renting this guy out to every last event going is not going to preserve the importance of that role. It'll trivialize it. And so, again, to the average Japanese person, the emperor is still a very important figure. The imperial family is still very much respected. And us over here in the West, we just don't, there's no concept, there's no comparison to that. We flatly do not have an entity of any type here in the West that holds that kind of reverence in the populace, period. There's nobody, no office, no figure that does the same thing. And so that's why we can't quantify why these people would have such a huge problem with grave robbing. It blows my mind.
扱いというのがあるというのは、これは大変な問題ですね。
そうですね。仁徳天皇陵ですね。
はい。
あそこに盗掘できると。
So the way this is explained here is the tomb of Emperor Nintoku is where the emperor's armors are being kept in the game. And so those armors are to be stolen and used against the Templar in the final battle. Yasuke can steal these as well as Naoe, okay? And again, you have to go through these various different obstacles and things because the tomb is sealed. Scientists can't even go in there. No one is allowed inside of these temples, but yet here's Yasuke, a foreigner, just hopscotching his way through it like it's an Indiana Temple of Doom scene. All right, and that's probably the more egregious thing is that they made it seem like it's some kind of crazy obstacle course to try and get into the Emperor. No, this is a very, very important religious space. It's not booby trapped. It's sealed. That's the way it works. There's a thing called reverence, not fear of death, that keeps people out of there, okay? They have respect for the emperor. They don't fear a mummy's curse, okay? They don't fear darts coming out of the wall at you, that kind of Indiana Jones nonsense that plagues the Assassin's Creed games. So there we go. That's what you're dealing with here. That's what's got these guys upset about this whole thing. Now, do I think they're going to ban the game? Probably. At this point, it's going to join Dead Space and the Callisto Protocol as being too violent and too destructive to Japanese sensibilities. That's what got Dead Space and Callisto Protocol banned in Japan. They're not for sale. Just so you know, Dead Space is not for sale in Japan, neither is Callisto Protocol. They were banned for excessive violence. Now, I don't know how Assassin's Creed gets around that now, where they've gone around, violating the Japanese culture. Like I said before, I thought they were going to come up with new rules going forward, but it would appear they're going to punish Ubisoft right here, right now. They're not going to wait for them to change their name.